Okay, today we're going to install a grass flap onto a Hustler with a VX4 deck. So the first thing we have to do is remove the existing discharge chute. It takes a 9/16 socket. Slide this rod out. Pull all that assembly off, and then we'll just we'll set it aside over here. We won't be needing that right now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install the mount, and it lines up on an existing hole on the deck. Makes it very simple to install. They're the grade 8. They're a yellow color, so that's how you know which ones to pull out of the bag here. So go ahead and make sure it's pretty tight there. Now we've got that installed. Next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and get the flap hinge portion of it. In this case, I'm installing the heavy-duty hinge. The difference between this and the standard is this is a 1/4-inch steel. It's a much stronger design. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get this thing set up to install. So I've just installed a couple of these bushings that'll be in the kit there, and then once we get those installed, we've got a couple of 5/16 bolts that will run through and actually thread into the flap mount itself. These are the 5/16 by 1.5 inch long standard hex head bolt, and they will install. These are also going to get a jam nut on them once we get going, so I kind of install them both at the same time. Makes it just a little easier. Okay, now we've got the hinge in place, and it should rotate here easily. The next thing that we're going to want to install is the spring mount itself. There's a pair of 1/4-inch square head bolts, 3/4 of an inch long. These guys will install right here. Take our power drill and makes it very easy. Okay. With that in place, then the next thing we want to do is go ahead and hook the spring up. Simple trick here is to use like a 7/16 wrench. Hook the spring eye itself, and then you've got the hinge itself in place. Okay, so on the heavy duty then, what we have is a heavy duty hinge, which gives us strength here up in the mounting area and that, and then we have a 1/4-inch plastic deflector itself that actually we use to completely block off the chute. And so when we go to install this, you may have to modify it just a little bit in order to make it fit. So what I'm going to try and do is get it lined up here with the bottom edge of the mower deck itself, and then once I do that, I've got to drill a hole here for the mounting screws. We've got 7 of these hex head mounting screws that drill into this plastic and do a nice job for us. As we need to make a little clearance for the bolt that we mounted the flap with, and so I'm going to put a couple marks here on this on the flap itself, and I'll show you what we're trying to work around here. So in this particular case, with this bolt, we've got to cut a little clearance out around this guy here. The easiest way to do that is going to be with just a simple hacksaw, and so in this case, what we're going to need to do is when we had the flap in position, we're going to need to cut down about a 1/2 inch or so, maybe 3/4 of an inch into this material. Once I get this cut, I'm going to put a little score line on it here. Should be able to take a pair of pliers in and and break this piece out. Okay. All right. Now, so with that piece out of our way, what's going to allow then is when we put this flap on for it to clear here and not hit that bolt head. Okay. So we'll put our screw back in. Line this guy back up. All right. We can finish drilling our holes. We'll go ahead and tighten this up. All right, and we get this lined up. We can go ahead and drill our next hole. All right, and get the screw lined up and started in there. We just want to start these screws. We don't want to completely install them. All right. With that done, then what we want to do is the plastic angle that comes with the kit comes with two-sided tape on it, and you'll line it up in here. It's going to fit right in here. It keeps the grass from blowing up. When you first crack this thing open, it tends to want to blow grass up this way and get all over you as the operator. So you don't want that to happen. So what you got to do is install this deflector. You have to make a little clearance for these tabs right here. So I've pre-cut one just using a pair of tin snips and got that thing lined up ready to go. And so what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and get it lined up with the notches that I cut. Once that's done, a little pressure right here will get that to stick. Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and finish installing the screws. And you can see, you may want to put a little angle on the front corner here. If you do, that's fine. Just take your hacksaw and put a little edge on it. I'm gonna go ahead and do that because I just think it makes for a better installation. Okay, so nice and easy. That way, if you do run into anything, it's just going to guide up along that edge. So basically, that's the installation of the flap. The next thing that we'll move to is installing the cable and the pedal. And get our cable lined up. So we'll go ahead and get this guy slipped in place here. We got to run it. Make sure that when you run it underneath the deck here that there's nothing in there getting in your way. Slide this guy. A couple jam nuts here to put on. Not too big a deal. We'll try and get it located about halfway down on the ferrule here. So we'll get it here, get it loosely in position. Got a pin here. All right, as we install the cable onto the flap itself, before we put the pin in, there's a small 1/4-inch bushing that needs to be inserted in the flap. This provides a pivot for the pin itself. So we'll go ahead and get that installed. And once you get that in place, we'll go ahead and put our cotter pin in there. And bend that a little bit, make sure that it's not going to come out. Okay, next thing we want to do is install the pedal. And the first thing we'll have to do is go ahead and get the cable itself hooked to the pedal. I've taken the jam nuts off this end of the cable. We're going to go ahead and slip it onto the pedal. It's important to go ahead and do this before you mount the pedal itself, because the jam nut here on the bottom in particular is fairly close when you get it all mounted and tightened up. So get that in position and get it snugged up. Now in this particular case, I'm going to take advantage of an existing hole on the foot deck to mount the pedal down with. The cable's actually going to run over the front edge here. You can also, and what I recommend is that you get it installed by drilling a couple holes here, a clearance hole for the cable. That would need to be about a 3/8, maybe a 1/2-inch clearance hole to run the cable through, and then drill a couple mounting holes for the base of the pedal itself. You can see you've got those here. It's important when you do that installation that you drill the clearance hole for the cable first, get the cable installed through that hole and these nuts tightened up, then position the pedal and mark these holes and drill them, because you want to make sure that this cable doesn't get in a bind. The other thing you have to be careful of is to make sure that when you route this cable, especially up underneath here, that you don't get it in a spot where you've got a real bad angle on this, a real bad turn. You want to try and keep about a generous 6-inch kind of radius turn on here, something looks like that is what you're looking for. So a couple things to pay attention as you get this guy mounted up underneath here. So as I mentioned, I'm going to take advantage of an existing hole. I'm going to put this 5/16 square head bolt and go ahead and get that pedal set in position. I've got a locking nut to go down here underneath. And there's 2 mounting holes on this pedal. Sometimes you can get away with just using one of those mounting holes to get the pedal locked down if you've got a good location for it. If not, go ahead and put both of them in. But in this case, I am only going to install the one because this is a demo mower and it's not a final install. Get this good and tight. Once I have that in position, I'm going to put this boot back on so I don't forget it. Get it locked into position. Now I need to take the clevis, got a little slot here, hook that cable into it, put this guy up on, put your pin through, and then drop your Carter pin in, put a little bend on that guy so that it stays in position. So now we're in, the pedal itself is in place. I'm just going to give it a quick check, make sure it's working okay, which it seems to be, and then so the next thing we got to do is we got to make sure that we get the cable is routed so that it's not going to cause us a problem. So one of the things that unfortunately the pedal it can be in our way. You might be able to work it around. In this case, I can. I can get it over out of the way. If you can't quite make that work, depending on where you put the pedal, the other option is this guy will lift out this way. So you can see it gives you a little bit of flexibility as far as getting this out of your way. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that because we need to get underneath here and make sure that our cable is in a good spot. All right. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to get in a position where it can get over into these belts. And it looks to me like we can just go right here around this guy here. There's a wire tie that should come with the kit, and you'll be able to zip tie that guy right to it. Be in position. It kind of gets this what I'm talking about there. Nice angle where it's not hanging out. The only risk you have when you mount this guy out over the front edge like this, you just got to make sure when you back mowers into each other, you don't end up damaging that. But that's a minor trade-off, I believe. Okay, so we've got that in place. We're going to get our cover back on. Okay, foot deck's in place. The final step here is to get the flap tuned in where it operates smoothly. So what we're looking for is we're looking for the flap when it's in this position for me to be able to push on the pedal and get it to move. Basically what that does is it prevents it from ever getting stuck out there where you can't operate it. And the way that you adjust that is through the spring here. We've got to adjust the tension on it. So in this case, if I'm going to go ahead and move it out of position a little bit. What you want to see is where does the flap go when I push the pedal all the way down and hold it. All right. So in this case, I'm going to push on the pedal, and I can't get it to move either way. So from the balance point is standing in the out position, and the pedal won't make it move. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and loosen the spring tension until it falls closed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start backing this bolt out until the flap falls closed. I'll go back and check it again. Still pushing on the pedal, but nothing's happening. Okay, I'm going to continue to back off spring pressure. There you go. Once I get it to that point, I want to go, maybe another couple turns just to be sure, not too much. And so again, I'm going to go back to that kind of balance point, push on the pedal, and it gets it to go close. Once that happens, then it's very easy to operate. So the operation of this is going to be, if you push it straight down, it's just going to stand out. You actually got to push it down and let off at the same time, okay? Sometimes that hangs people up. They push the pedal down and they say it only comes halfway and won't go. The trick is you actually are flipping this thing open. So now you're ready to go out and cut some grass.